Gopi Janavalabha Giri Varadari Gopi Janavalabha Giri Varadari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Shri Shri Koda Nitai Mayapur Shashi Ki Jai Shri Tulsinath Maharaj Ki Jai Shri Giridhari Lal Ki Jai Shri Nrsingadev Bhagavan Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Should I sing some Hare Krishna or is that okay? Should I sing some Hare Krishna? Okay. So we're reading from Srila Prabhupada Leelamrita, Volume 6, Uniting Two Worlds. And the chapter is, I have done my part. Okay. Despite the finality of these words, Srila Prabhupada continued to converse in his room with a few guests who remained after most of the devotees had left. A retired family man, Mr. Bose, was present and told Prabhupada how he was now living alone in the Krishna Balaram Mandir. Prabhupada said, "You will not be able to adjust to this way of life." But when Mr. Bose expressed his determination, Prabhupada added, "You have a very good family, so it is hopeful." Srila Prabhupada went on to recall some of his activities at Rishikesh, and he spoke of how his movement was growing stronger around the world and how in New York the judge had made a very favorable decision. A little later, the conversation turned to ghosts, and Prabhupada told about the haunted house of Lokanath Mullik in Calcutta. Prabhupada had also rented a ghost house in Lucknow. "I am not afraid of ghosts," he said. "I am ghost-proof." In England, there are also many ghosts. They are generally evil, and sometimes they even kill. They can be seen sometimes entering a latrine or sitting on a pillar. By offering pinda, one can free his forefathers from ghostly bodies. In Mayapur, there were many Mohammedan ghosts, but not anymore. By our chanting Hare Krishna, ghosts are driven away. Prabhupada began a routine. In the morning, he would ride in the car at least a short distance down to Bhaktivedanta Swami Marg. Although even riding was difficult for him, the morning air would be fresh and cool compared to the heat of the day, and the road, lined with neem trees and shrubs, was pleasant. Each morning, he would come back and faithfully, lovingly behold Krishna and Balaram. Then he would sit or rest in his main room, and later move upstairs, where a desk and a chair, as well as a bed, were set up on the outdoor veranda of his house. Here also the devotees had thrown water on the floors for cooling. His main room downstairs had an air cooler. Srila Prabhupada was still prone to become involved in management, and he asked his secretary to report to him on the various ISKCON activities. "You become my eyes," he said, but to think that the Bombay project was not yet completed disturbed him very much. "I have worked so far to get done whatever is accomplished," he told Tamal Krishna. "Now if the deities are not properly installed in my presence, it will be a great shock." But ISKCON management was too much botheration, and Prabhupada told Tamal Krishna, "You must give me complete relief from management." Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay. So it's Om Namo Bhagavate, Vasudeva, then the invocation, then the verse.
The prayers after the verse, start invocation, verse, and the translation, then prayers.
Right. Om Namo Bhagavate first. Missed it out last time. So. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 1, Text 20. It's the verse I've chosen to speak about today. This is a chapter is called Questions by the Sages. So these are my sort of debut classes. I'm new to giving classes in the temple room for sure. So I've given 2 classes already on this particular chapter. And we're continuing with that theme, at least for today. So this is text 20. Kritavan kilakamani Saharamena Keshava Atimatyani Bhagavan Guda Kapata Manusha Kritavan Kilakamani Saharamena Keshava Atimatyani Bhagavan Guda Kapata Manusha Kritavan Kilakamani Saharamena Keshava Atimatyani Bhagavan Gudha Kapata Manusha Kritavan Kilakamani Saharamena Keshava Atimatyani Bhagavan Gudha Kapata Manusha Kritavan Kilakamani Saharamena Keshava Atimatyani Bhagavan Gudha Kapata Manusha Kritavan Kilakamani Saharamena Keshava Atimatyani Bhagavan Gudha Kapata Manusha Kritavan Kilakamani Saharamena Keshava Atimatyani Bhagavan Gudha Kapata Manusha Kritavan Kilakamani Saharamena Keshava Atimachani Bhagavan Buddha Kapata Manushaha Kritavan done by Kila what Kamani acts Saha along with Ramena Balaram Keshava Sri Krishna Atimachyani superhuman Bhagavan the personality of Godhead Gudha masked as Kapata apparently Manusaha human being. Lord Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, along with Balaram, played like a human being, and so masked, he performed many superhuman acts. Invocation? Did you do invocation yet? The other one? Huh? Okay. Lord Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, along with Balaram, played like a human being, and so masked he performed many superhuman acts. Lord Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, along with Balaram, played like a human being, and so masked he performed many superhuman acts. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. The doctrines of anthropomorphism and zoomorphism are never applicable to Sri Krishna, or the personality of Godhead. The theory that a man becomes God by dint of penance and austerities is very much rampant nowadays, especially in India. Since Lord Ram, Lord Krishna, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were detected by the sages and saints to be the personality of Godhead, as indicated in revealed scriptures, many unscrupulous men have created their own incarnations. This process of concocting an incarnation of God has become an ordinary business, especially in Bengal. Any popular personality with a few traits of mystic powers will display some feat of jugglery and easily become an incarnation of Godhead by popular vote. Lord Sri Krishna was not that type of incarnation. He was actually the personality of Godhead from the very beginning of his appearance. He appeared before his so-called mother as four-armed Vishnu. Then, at the request of the mother, he became like a human child and at once left her for another devotee at Gokul, where he was accepted as the son of Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Mata. Similarly, Sri Baladev, the counterpart of Lord Sri Krishna, was also considered a human child born of another wife of Sri Vasudeva. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that his birth and deeds are transcendental, and that anyone who is so fortunate as to know the transcendental nature of his birth and deeds will at once become liberated and eligible to return to the kingdom of God. So knowledge of the transcendental nature of the birth and deeds of Lord Sri Krishna is sufficient for liberation. In the Bhagavatam, the transcendental nature of the Lord is described in 9 cantos, and in the 10th canto, his specific pastimes are taken up. All this becomes known as one's reading of this literature progresses. It is important to note here, however, that the Lord exhibited his divinity even from the lap of his mother, that his deeds are all superhuman. He lifted Govardhan Hill at the age of 7, and that all these acts definitely prove him to be actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yet due to his mystic covering, he was always accepted as an ordinary human child by his so-called father and mother and other relatives. Whenever some Herculean task was performed by him, the father and mother took it otherwise, and they remained satisfied with unflinching filial love for their son. As such, the sages of Naimisharan described him as apparently resembling a human being, but actually he is the Supreme Almighty Personality of Godhead. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So I'll just do the invocation. I'll use the Bhagavad Gita because it's got it written down. It's easier. It's just very interesting. It was nice how the verse just kind of rolled off everyone's tongue. Kind of magical. Magical verse, this one. Chapter 20. Text 20, rather. Om Jnana Timirantasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Shtapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yotapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabando Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Lord Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, along with Balaram, played like a human being, and so masked he performed many superhuman acts. So the first thing that we're wondering is, what does anthropomorphism mean, and what does zoomorphism mean? There's big words. So I looked these up in the dictionary, also a good book. It's a recommended book to read if you're stuck on a word. So, of course, the dictionary is evolving over time because words are relative, and we're discussing absolute subject matter. The definition of absolute truth is Krishna. Krishna is the absolute truth. And anything pertaining to Krishna is also of an absolute nature. So anyway, the dictionary and the language is not absolute. It changes. But generally, it is good policy to look up words, especially if you're stuck. So I did that for this. Anthropomorphism and zoomorphism, they are basically where we attribute human qualities or human behaviors or human tendencies or motives to something which is superhuman or not human. And zoomorphism is we attribute human-like qualities to animals. I think that's right. I think I got it right, the definition right there. So look at animal, for example, the example in just proof that the dictionary is not absolute. It gives the example of Winnie the Pooh, the cartoon character. So Winnie the Pooh, he's a bear. He eats honey and stuff like that. So, but he has like a lot of human qualities in the cartoon. So he's almost like a little human character, but he's actually just a bear. So this is an example of zoomorphism, where we impose human-like behaviors and tendencies and patterns onto something like an animal. So in relation to Krishna, Krishna appears like a human being, and he appears like an animal sometimes in his various incarnations. The original form of Krishna is Krishna. Krishna is the origin of all the different incarnations. He's like the original candle, and then from Krishna, all the other incarnations are appearing, and they have the exacting quality. Sometimes they have all the qualities of Krishna, but Krishna is the original candle that lights all the other candles. He's the origin of all the different incarnations. So there's many incarnations of Krishna, and some of them appear within the animal kingdom. They appear to be animals. And Krishna here, in his original form, he appears to be human-like, to be a human being, whereas actually he retains all his superhuman, transcendental qualities and natures. So that's a little bit about anthropomorphism, zoomorphism. So they're never applicable to Sri Krishna. So when we're hearing about Krishna's pastimes, we're hearing about his dealings with the gopis, his dealings with the demons, his dealings with the residents in Vrindavan, we should strongly bear in mind that we're not dealing with a human being that's performing these pastimes. He's superhuman. He's the origin of all these personalities and people. He's the supreme friend of everyone, the supreme proprietor of everything, and let's get this right, the well-wisher of everyone. Friend, proprietor, and supreme enjoyer. So this is actually Krishna's position. He's Bhagavan. He's full in all opulences, strength, fame, beauty, wealth, knowledge, renunciation, strength, wealth. 6 opulences. Yeah. And he's full in all opulences. So this is Krishna, and is Satchid Ananda Vigraha. His body is made of knowledge, eternality, and bliss. So this is Krishna's position. And the more we begin to understand Krishna, then the more Krishna-like we become in one sense, but we never become Krishna. We can become Satchidananda Vigraha. We can become full in knowledge, bliss, and eternity. This is our original nature, but it's been covered over by a material construct of misidentification. And then we're misidentifying with the body. So this can be given up by becoming Krishna conscious, and we can also become Krishna-like, but we never become Krishna. And this Srila Prabhupada is making this point very strongly here. The theory that a man becomes God by dint of penance and austerities is very much rampant nowadays. So, of course, nowadays is Kali Yuga. So that is probably going to become more popular as Kali Yuga progresses. So nowadays is Kali Yuga. So it's a foregone conclusion. People are misguided in Kali Yuga, especially in India, as Srila Prabhupada points out here. That's very interesting. Of course, Srila Prabhupada has first-hand experience of this. He's seen it with his own eyes, so I can't comment on that. But I take Srila Prabhupada's words as absolute here. So I remember I sat in on one of Tamal Krishna Goswami's classes in London. This was in the late 90s. He gave a few classes in London, and he was talking about this point as well, that actually to give up this concept that we can become God even through Krishna consciousness. By becoming Krishna conscious, there may be a tiny tinge of, if I just become really Krishna conscious, then I may actually become God. So we have to forget this tendency. This is to be given up, but it may be there. We may not even be aware of it. Obviously, not the devotees in this room, but for neophyte devotees, that tendency may still be there. It may still be somewhere in the heart that they're believing that if they just chant 1,000,000 rounds, or if they just become fully conversant in the scriptures, they may actually become Krishna. So that's definitely never going to happen. So we can give that up now. So it was a very nice point Tamal Krishna Goswami was making in the class, and it really struck me. I thought, well, I don't actually feel that myself, but I can see that is the case, that some people may actually be still thinking that they can become Krishna through this process. So that's not going to happen. And there was one class by Tamal Krishna Goswami, which is available on YouTube. You can watch it yourself. This is going back in the day, where he's challenging one disciple, so-called disciple of a so-called, you might say, incarnation of God. He was trying to profess himself to be someone very special, whereas in fact Tamal Krishna Goswami was pointing out that this particular person, I won't mention the name, was not that special. He wasn't that special. He could do a few magic tricks here and there, produce gold. I think you know who I'm talking about. And he could do some wondrous things to bamboozle his followers and keep them inspired and enthused. But in actual fact, what he was actually doing wasn't really that amazing. It wasn't really that amazing at all. So Tamal Krishna Goswami was pointing that out to this very naive follower of this particular person. And in the end, the person was pretty much converted to the idea that he should be looking into Krishna consciousness. And Tamal Krishna Goswami was saying that just by 6 months of following the Bhakti yoga process, you would achieve more self-realization than in an entire lifetime of following this particular so-called guru. So that was a very nice thing, a nice class. And I felt very fortunate to be in the same room as Tamal Krishna Goswami when he was talking about this point. So it was at London Temple, and it's a very small sort of space where they give the classes. So it's very intimate, and you get the eye contact and everything. It was very nice. So that's that. I don't have much to say about the various bogey yogis and incarnations because I'm not really that up on the different ones. But there are a couple of prominent ones that we do speak about from time to time, and we defeat them on the basis of what is being revealed in this purport of what the definition of Krishna is. So anyway, I will move on from that point. So the theory that a man becomes God by dint of penance and austerity is very much rampant nowadays, especially in India. Well, we can just draw on the example of Hiranyakashipu, who was performing penance and austerities, great austerities, for a very long time. I forget how long it was a very long time. And he was so austere that his body was completely rotting away through fasting. And ants were chewing away at his body. There was basically nothing left of him. So very, very austere, great penance. So much so that it attracted the attention of Brahma, who was his worshipable object at that time. He was praying to Brahma for some boon, some benediction. So Brahma appeared to him and said, "What is it you want? You know, this is quite disturbing. What's going on? So, just, what would you like?" And then Hiranyakashipu, being of a demoniac nature, he had this idea that he wanted to become God through his penance and austerities. He wanted to live eternally in the material tabernacle, the material world, and he wanted to enjoy his senses. So that was Hiranyakashipu's program. That was his desire, and he wanted to be God. And he wanted to perform the penance and austerities to achieve that position. So Brahma, not being God himself, Brahma, the chief of the demigods, he doesn't have immortality himself in that form, even though he's a great devotee of Krishna. He doesn't have what Hiranyakashipu is asking of him. It's an impossible ask, really, to want to be God and enjoy your senses in the material world. Eternally is it's a hiding to nothing, basically. But Hiranyakashipu, he was quite tricky. So he asked for benedictions which he thought would cover him from all different circumstances of dying. So he thought he had it sewn up. Let me not be killed by any man, by any beast, by any weapon, not on land, not in the sea, not in the air, not outside, not inside, not during the day, not at night. So he thought he had it sewn up. He thought he had it covered. He was kind of smug after he got the benediction from Lord Brahma, and he became very powerful and very fearful to the demigods, who were also not God. But he became a very powerful presence in the material world, and of course this was his program, wanting to become God through penance and austerities, and he got defeated. Of course, he got what he was due. By Krishna, by an incarnation of Krishna, who was neither man nor beast. He was half lion and half man. Shri Shikoda Nitai Maya Pushashi ki jai. Shri Tulsanath Maharaj ki jai. Shri Girid Harilal ki jai. Shri Nishingadev Bhagavan ki jai. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. So Lord Nishingadev. So he's not a lion. He's not a lion, and he's not a man either. So that's proof. This zoomorphism doesn't work when applicable to Krishna, because he can be both. He can be an animal and a man combined into one form, and superhuman at the same time. So anyway, I won't go into the whole pastime of Lord Nishingadev and Hiranyakashipu because we don't have much time. But Lord Nishingadev killed Hiranyakashipu, liberated him, purified him, and kept all his benedictions intact, so he didn't upset the benedictions that Brahma gave him. So that's an amazing pastime of incarnation of Krishna. So the main sort of topic here in the purport is why does Krishna appear? Why does Krishna appear? So Krishna appears for two reasons: to protect his devotees, to please his devotees, so include that as the one reason, and secondly, to kill or annihilate the miscreants or the demons. Generally, the demons, to some degree or another, will have this kind of program. They want to become God. They'll perform penance and austerity. They'll learn the Vedas. They'll do whatever it takes to misuse their independence to try to play the role of becoming God. So Krishna will depopulate the planet of these types of people. He'll depopulate the universe of these types of people as necessary in order to maintain a good standard within his universal creations, his external energies, his external creations. He also maintains them. Krishna is the origin of everything in the material world, of everything relative. The origin is Krishna, and everything absolute, the origin is also Krishna. Krishna is the absolute truth. So this is the main two reasons why Krishna is appearing, but mainly to please his devotees. This is why Krishna descends to the material world. So let's go through the purport here. So this ordinary business of concocting different gods. So we'll use the example of Poundraka. Poundraka was essentially a demon. He was a great king. He was a powerful king, and he was enamored by his surrounding associates. They were saying how great he was, what a wonderful king he was, how good looking he was, how powerful in battle he was, etc. He became so enamored by false prestige, which of course is our number one stumbling block to our spiritual path. He became enamored by false prestige, and he began to consider himself to be Vishnu or Krishna. He began to, at least wishful thinking, he put himself in this position as an all-powerful person. And of course, this was during Krishna's appearance time. This was during Krishna's presence on the planet 5,000 years ago. So Poundraka, being puffed up and proud and delusional, just like that story, the emperor's new clothes. We may have heard that story. It's a famous fable. The emperor became so convinced that he was wearing clothes that he actually appeared before the public stark naked, believing that he was wearing a very nice outfit that was tailored to suit his fashion. So he was so convinced by these tailors who were basically cheating him, and the people around him were too afraid to say anything else. Yeah, it's a fantastic outfit you're wearing. He wasn't actually wearing anything. Of course, that would be an arrestable offence if that was now. If he was to appear naked, he would be arrested very quickly, and that would be the end of him. But he was so convinced that he was wearing clothes, and the people, they were convinced, and they weren't able to. They were too afraid to say anything, apart from one boy who said, "The king is naked." And then that was the end of the king's pride. And Adhoksha Krishna Prabhu was saying in one of his classes that Srila Prabhupada was like that boy who spoke out. Srila Prabhupada would speak out against so-called bogey yogis, so-called people wanting to declare themselves as God. And of course, the misery of the material world, Srila Prabhupada wasn't afraid to spell out the misery of the material world and just call it out for what it is. It's a material world is not where it's at. So Srila Prabhupada is likened to that. But in my analogy, the Poundraka is likened to the emperor, the emperor's new clothes. He was completely enamored by this idea that he was God. So he approached Krishna in a very challenging mood. I am the Vasudev. I am the God. And he had these pretend extra extension arms. And of course, when Krishna and his associates saw Poundraka, they completely they completely fell about laughing. They were in hysterics, and they basically laughed him out of the courtyard and out of the city. I think it's Mathura. So they found it hysterical. But Poundrika wasn't satisfied. He genuinely believed that he was Vasudeva. He was that delusional. And he waged war against Krishna. So Krishna got a bit serious, and he said, well, I'm going to have to teach this Poundrika a lesson, one that he's not going to forget in a hurry. So they had a battle, and Krishna let his Sudarshan disc on Poundrika and basically took his head off with the Sudarshan disc. That was the end of Poundrika. Poundrika was obviously liberated. Whenever anyone comes into contact with Krishna, it's always beneficial, whether they're a demon or a devotee. They're always going to be benedicted and benefited from this experience. So Poundrika was benefited, but of course he was defeated. And then they threw his head back into the city from which it came, just to teach all the people of that city that they weren't dealing with the absolute truth in the form of Poundrika. He was just a delusioned demon, basically. So it was quite a graphic thing, but that's what happened. So that's Poundrika, and then so just having a few mystic powers and displaying these kind of mystic powers, it just doesn't cut it. It's not. This is due to a poor fund of knowledge. People have a poor fund of knowledge, particularly in Kali Yuga, as Srila Prabhupada's pointing out nowadays. Srila Prabhupada's pointing out that people have this poor fund of knowledge, and they will accept anyone as God just based on a few mystic juggleries here and there. So let's move further down the purport. So from the very beginning of Krishna's appearance, he appeared before his so-called mother as 4-armed Vishnu. Well, so I did a bit of background preparation, believe it or not, before this class, even though it's a bit jittery. So I looked into Krishna's appearance. Of course, that's coming up on the 29th of August. And before that, Balaram's appearance on the 23rd. So we've got a lot to look forward to, a lot of pastimes about Krishna's appearance and the natures of Krishna's appearance will be coming up to look forward to. So anyone can tune into those and really relish those pastimes on these auspicious days, the 23rd and the 29th, for Balaram appearance and then Krishna's appearance. So Krishna appeared here at the request of Vasudeva and Devaki. So now Vasudeva and Devaki were no ordinary people. They had already performed great penance in their previous life, 12,000 years of severe penance. They were practicing brahmachari, sense control. They were eating twigs and just water, and very, very austere, very self-controlled, very devout personalities in their previous life. They were very advanced personalities. And Krishna asked them, he was very pleased with their austerities, and he asked them what would they like. So they said, we would like to have a son like you. We would like to have you or a son like you. So Krishna, he was very pleased. He gave them this benediction. Okay. So Krishna appeared through, they were called Prishni and Sutapa in the previous life. Sutapa was Vasudeva. So that was, and so he appeared as Prishni Garbha, who is Vishnu incarnation, as their son. And he was quite instrument in many pastimes, like Dhruva Maharaj met Prishni Garbha, that form of Vishnu, and it was that form of Vishnu that gave Dhruva Maharaj his own planet and pacified Dhruva. So that was in that birth, and then they appeared again as Aditi and Kashyapa, and in that birth they gave facility to the appearance of Lord Vamanadev. Lord Vamanadev is or Upendra. He's also an incarnation of Krishna, and he appeared for many wonderful pastimes, which I won't go into in this class. And then after that, when they became Devaki and Vasudeva, Krishna appeared again as their son. And he appeared in a four-armed form just to show them that it was the Supreme Personality of Godhead that was going to appear. So he reassured them. And he had to reassure them because they were in a very, very distressful situation. They'd been kidnapped and locked. When we say locked down, they were actually put in a cell by Devaki's brother. Kamsa is a very evil, powerful demon of that time, hell-bent on killing Krishna. He had the premonition was given to him that Krishna was going to appear to annihilate him, to kill him. And he was fearful all the time. He knew what was going to happen. His sister was going to give birth to Krishna. Krishna was going to appear and Krishna was going to kill him. It was a foregone conclusion. He knew it was going to happen. And he was absolutely terrified, and he was demonic. So he was prepared to do anything to prevent this from happening. Of course, he had this plan that he wanted to live forever, and he was prepared to do anything to get that, to become God. So his plan, again, it was a hiding tunnel thing, but he was trying. He was going to all horrific extents, killing children, killing Devaki's babies to try and secure his position in the material world. So anyway, so Vasudeva and Devaki, they were quite petrified of Kamsa. So Krishna appears in this four-arm form to show them, don't worry, I'm here. I'm the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I'm going to protect you, and I'm still fulfilling your promise, the promise that I'll be your son, and everything's going to work out. So, and then shortly after, they'd offered some amazing prayers. Devaki and Vasudeva, to Krishna, in his four-arm form, really amazing prayers that just really clarify what it means to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead, what that position is. This is no ordinary thing. And you can read for yourself. Read it in Krishna book, chapter 2. You can read it here. I've got a copy of the Vedic Paradigm. It's compiled in there as well. It's a lovely book by His Grace Dhanavir Goswami, a really wonderful book. His Holiness Dhanavir Goswami has compiled lots of information about Krishna here and Lord Chaitanya as well. So they offer the prayers, and then Krishna goes back into his baby form, and he requests, take me to Yashoda and Nanda in Gokul. I want you to do this, and they will bring me up. So Devaki and Vasudeva, they follow through with Krishna's instruction, and Yogamaya, who is Krishna's power. You have the powerful and the power. Krishna is all powerful, and the power of Krishna is Yogamaya. A Yogamaya can create this mystic blanket and over anything and everything, and create all wonderful situations to facilitate Krishna's pastimes. So that's exactly what happened. Is Yogamaya was able to arrange an escape for Vasudeva to take Krishna over to Gokul to hand over to Yashoda and Nanda, who would then raise Krishna as their own child. So this is a little insight into Krishna's pastimes. I'll just go through the purport a little more. Okay, so Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that his births and deeds are transcendental, and that anyone who is so fortunate as to know the transcendental nature of his birth and deeds will at once become liberated and eligible to return to the kingdom of God. So that's all in Bhagavad Gita. It's in chapter 4. So one who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. And then just prior to that, Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, to deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to re-establish the principles of religion, I myself appear millennium after millennium. Of course, millennium is not 1,000 years, it's a yuga. So Krishna's given all the information about Krishna's transcendental appearance, the nature of his appearance is given in the Srimad Bhagavatam up to Canto 10, and it's in the Bhagavad Gita. We have this Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 1, which I'm reading from. The Canto 1 is available in a small book, so we can distribute these books. And if we really, really want to get the mercy, we can give this knowledge to other people through the Bhagavad Gita, through the Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 1. It's a book in print. It's easy to distribute. So we can distribute this knowledge to people, and we can help people to become liberated from ignorance, which is preventing people. Ignorance of Krishna is preventing people from becoming Krishna conscious and from becoming freed from the material miseries of life. And the result of that is that people, powerful under knowledge, they have this tendency to want to become God. They have this Mayavadi tendency, and it comes from mental speculation. It comes from a lack of spiritual building blocks, which the Bhagavad Gita is giving us to re-establish our own eternal identity as servants of Krishna. So the servants of Krishna, they're in the inner circle of Krishna's pastimes. They're Krishna's family, and Krishna will reveal to these people his nature, his pastimes, everything. Everything is revealed to Arjuna, because Arjuna is a great friend of Krishna. So Krishna is saying in the Bhagavad Gita, because you are my friend, I will teach you this knowledge. What you do with this knowledge is up to you, but you're my friend, I'll teach you this. So this is Arjuna. And then in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, Lord Chaitanya is the incarnation for the age we're living. His appearance is very transcendental. He appeared during the eclipse when everyone was chanting Hare Krishna. They were chanting Hari, Hari to counteract the effects of the eclipse. And at that time, Lord Chaitanya took the opportunity to appear on cue as Lord Chaitanya with the mission to bring the holy name, which is Krishna, exactly Krishna, to the people in the Kali Yuga. So Lord Chaitanya's appearance is also a wonderful transcendental activity that we can hear about and learn about. And from doing so, and from why Lord Chaitanya appears, there's many reasons why Lord Chaitanya appears: to give the holy name, to please his devotees, and to experience what it's like to be a devotee himself, to experience the prema of a devotee, the love of a devotee that a devotee has for Krishna. The residents of Goloka Vrindavan were petitioning Krishna to experience what it's like to be a devotee. So Krishna took that challenge and he appeared as Lord Chaitanya, who is Radharani and Krishna combined. So he has the love of a devotee, but he has the form of Krishna, but in the mood of a devotee. So this is Lord Chaitanya. And in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, we have Ramananda Rai, who is Arjuna incarnated to hear more relishable transcendental topics about his appearance and his purpose and everything. So this is an example of how being in the inner circle, being a devotee of Krishna, then this knowledge can become actualized, can become realized of Krishna. Whereas if we just study it from like a PhD kind of point of view, then we may become favorable to this, but not so much as if we actually become a devotee of Krishna, like the residents of Vrindavan. They have this this unflinching love for Krishna, and they're not really bothered whether he is the Almighty Krishna or not. They just have this unique devotional love for Krishna. So that's the level we want to get to. But in order to achieve that level, we have to at least theoretically, we have to practice the system, which is to read the Srimad Bhagavatam from Canto 1 to Canto 10 in sequential order, ideally, so that we can get a feel for who Krishna actually is, his position, and then Krishna will begin to accept us into his inner circle of being an intimate devotee of Krishna, where these facts about Krishna, they don't matter so much. It's more about the finer, intimate dealings with Krishna, and the other stuff is kind of background. So any quick questions, very quick questions?
Thank you, Prabhu, for the class. Just like you mentioned, Ramananda Rai, he is Krishna, did you say?
Arjuna.
Arjuna, did you say? Okay. Maybe I will look. Because I think somewhere I read in Chaitanya Charitamrita
It's one of the Sakhis, possibly Vishaka Sakhi or Lalita Sakhi, but I will check. And you reckon it would be mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita? You think that this will be mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita that Ramanand Rai was Arjuna?
I'm not sure. It's a combination.
I see. Right, yeah. This was Advaita Acharya. He was a bit background about Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya appeared also at the request of Advaita Acharya. Advaita Acharya is Shiva and Vishnu combined. So Krishna was hearing these prayers of Advaita Acharya and the worship. There's a great penance and austerity is a foundation for attracting the attention of Krishna. Krishna doesn't have ordinary parents, and he doesn't really appear at the request of ordinary people. He appears at the request of people who are willing to perform this penance and austerity. Krishna will reciprocate with that. So Advaita Acharya was doing that. Like I say, Krishna's parents here, Devaki and Vasudeva, great penance they performed to get the benediction of having Krishna's association. So just a mundane person who says they're God, well, who are the parents? What qualities do the parents have? What qualifications have they got? What about the people around them? What are their qualities? We're not really qualified to have Krishna's personal association. It's not really a cheap thing. To be in that very intimate inner circle, there requires a lot of groundwork is done. We're doing the groundwork now. That's why we're here. We're performing the groundwork, and we're taking part in Lord Chaitanya's pastime by giving this knowledge to other people. This is why we stress book distributing the Bhagavatam to other people, distributing the Bhagavad Gita to other people. Then we become dear to Krishna. Then we'll be able to be qualified more to enter into Krishna's association. For now, we're in a vulnerable position. We're also subject to illusion to some degree. So we have to inoculate ourselves from these bogey yogis and demons and so-called incarnations that are popping up by protecting ourselves through the service of Sankirtan, through giving this knowledge to other people. So that will keep us fixed on the path of remembering Krishna, knowing who Krishna is without becoming bamboozled by all these different so-called incarnations. So I'll have to finish the class because we're running low on time. It's a big topic, talking about Krishna's appearance, Krishna's nature, the different incarnations. There's many I didn't mention of the animal variety, like Viraha is a boar, Matsya is a fish incarnation of Krishna. These are very wonderful pastimes in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So read, share the philosophy with other people, and then you become knowledgeable about Krishna, his nature, the pastimes, and you'll also become free from the dangers of the material world and these tendencies to become God ourselves. These will be kicked out very quickly by reading Srila Prabhupada's purports. So, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna.